a disturbing in a good way for Apocaflix now. I think Smashing Padme is our alternate Padawan shirt.
Oh my goodness!
I can't, dude. I cannot get that out of my head.
I think you just permanently ruined that scene with me of Obi-Wan just standing at the top with his arms on his hips.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Padawan Podcast, Apocaflix Movies All Star Wars Podcast, where we are breaking down everything from the galaxy far, far away. And on this occasion, the final time that we're going to be breaking down everything from the galaxy far, far away for a little while here. If you've been following us here on the channel, you know that we are currently going to be putting Padawan Podcast and Nerd Nation both on pause for an extended period of time. And so today, we are celebrating Padawan by doing our Star Wars favorites. And it's kind of going to be a little bit of a rambunctious show about going through different categories and things that we want to talk about inside Star Wars. And each of us have brought essentially one for each of them to discuss. And we're just going to run through the list and discuss essentially why we like Star Wars and why we love Star Wars. And with me, per usual, on the crew, on the panel, is Mr. Obi-Wan Jacoby, Jacob Bartley. How you doing, sir?
Hello there. I am doing pretty good considering everything going on. Again, it's pretty hot, so as soon as I got home, turned the AC down a little bit, ready to go.
All right, man. We have the Grand Admiral Sino himself, Brian Avalosino, right there on the right side. How are you holding up over there?
Doing good. Jacob, you need a haircut. God, your hair is...
I know. What the
I'm
hell,
kidding.
man?
He literally...
Your hair is not even that long.
It's not even bad.
Oh, in person, it's pretty messy, but it's because you can't see the back. But Brian, I say when we bring the show back, you have to learn how to talk like Thrawn and just do that voice, at least for the Hilt intro.
Yeah, he's too. He talks too eloquently, and I like
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe I'll get some red contacts.
Maybe.
Okay, so we are doing Star Wars favorites today, and like I said, we have a number of different things like favorite movie, character, game, lightsaber color, favorite ship in Star Wars. A whole bunch of different things to kind of run through, but I felt like it would be necessary to kind of just quickly, as short as possible, just express why you love Star Wars or what Star Wars means to you before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of the topic today, especially being our last show here. And I know we talked about it before, but maybe the opinion has changed a little bit or you have something to add to that. And so I figured it might be a cool way to start the show off. And I will start with the Jedi himself, Mr. Obi-Wan Jacoby.
Man, so we've answered this a couple times throughout the podcast, but it not that it changes, but the way we explain it might change in a way. But I have no other better way of explaining it than no matter what, it's always my number one source of fandom. Like it's always. And I love a lot of other things out. I love Marvel. I love DC. I love, Harry Potter and Power Rangers. But Star Wars I wouldn't love any of those things if it weren't for Star Wars. It opened the door to fandom for me. So, and I'm sure that's the same for both of you. I'm sure. So sorry for stealing those words if I did. But
there's been a lot of stealing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, especially on this show all the time. But even though there's a lot of negativity, and from both of us, even though there's a lot of negativity around Star Wars possibly right now, and I don't know why there should be. I mean, we got the Mandalorian season 2 coming out this year. I'm excited for Star Wars. No matter what, I still love it, and that never will change for me. So I don't know. That's kind of it's a forever thing for me. It's not just a phase.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree with Jacob in the fandom aspect because growing up, it was the only real thing that people really clamored over. That you could talk about with your friends. People know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. Now there's different stuff. You have all the Marvel stuff. You have all the DC stuff. There's so much more big fan bases, but Star Wars has always kind of been that big one, that no pun force to be reckoned with as far as franchises, and it's what us three grew up with. So, I mean, that was always a constant. My parents probably spent so much money on toys growing up that I wouldn't even want to know a dollar count. And then me, to be honest, probably the amount of video games and stuff that I put dollars into, I don't even want to know. But it's so worth it just because it takes you to a galaxy far, far away and kind of forget about your stuff that's going on here, and you get transported to a different world. And it's constantly changing. I mean, we're getting new stuff next year that's completely different than what we've ever known before, and it's exciting because it's ever changing, and it's just a fun ride.
Yeah, I'll echo everything you both said, and I definitely echo the sentiments of, you know, it being there since childhood, right? It's the one constant we've had for our entire lives. Personally, there was a little bit of a gap there in between, but there was still things to read and do as far as Lego sets, especially for one like me. You know, we had the 3 movies growing up as kids, and then we got the 3 movies as adults, and we've gotten the 2 solo adventures as well. And it's just been the one constant in my life for 28 years now. And, you know, no matter how much I love, and Jacob said it perfectly, no matter how much I love like something like Indiana Jones or Back to the Future or, you know, the MCU stuff now, it'll never top what Star Wars has done for me in my life. And, you know, it's crazy because it's just a fandom that we're doing this about, and it's just movies that we're doing this about, but to us, they mean so much more. And the addition of the books and the comics and, you know, the Lego sets or the hot toys, which we're addicted to, and, you know, those types of things, it just adds.
You two.
Don't trust me. If you could get one or a dozen,
I could get one. I just can't justify it. But if you're looking, the person in the middle right now.
The thing is, once you buy one, you're screwed. You cannot stop.
I have 4. I have 4 on pre-order right now. So,
I was gonna say,
and look, I have a couple on pre-order, but Star Wars is the only. I have. All right, I either own or have on pre-order.
He's justifying his addiction right now.
3 Star Wars ones, just for example. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So, it's an important part of my life, and, you know, not just as far as movies go or experiencing like doing a podcast like here with you guys, but, you know, you see the posters in the background or my dog name being Kylo or whatever it may be. It kind of just like runs, you know, it doesn't like run my life, but it's an essential part of my life. And so, yeah, it means a lot. It definitely means a lot. And it means a lot to all 3 of us. And we're excited to talk some favorites today. And so without the emotional stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. We're not going to go in the exact order that I texted you guys as to. I'm kind of going to, you know, split them up a little bit. Maybe do a big one here, a little smaller one here. And the one that I kind of want to start with that might be interesting because none of us have really ever talked about this is favorite ship. We've never actually talked about favorite ship in Star Wars. There's big ones, there's small ones, there's popular ones to the main audiences, there's popular ones to the know-hows like we are, and so I wanted to start there, and I'll shoot it over to Brian all the way on the right-hand side. What is your favorite ship in Star Wars, Mr. Avellino?
My favorite ship has always kind of, it's funny because I don't even know if I would classify it like as my favorite, but it's the one that I've always been like, oh,
I know what it is.
That ship. What is it?
Y-Wing.
No.
Really?
No.
You talk about a Y-Wing constantly.
I love me Y-Wing.
Wait, what was it?
Y-Wing. He said a Y-Wing.
Oh, okay.
I love me a Y-Wing. They don't get enough credit. But the one that I've always just, I think because when I first watched it and saw it, it was just so like, whoa. And that's a Star Destroyer. And I don't know. There's something so like clean. Yeah, I am. But there's something so like clean and slick and just like they're menacing, but because they're huge. And just, I don't know. Maybe it was just because the first thing you see, one of the first things you see in all of Star Wars is a Star Destroyer chasing after Jesus,
come on, pull the name. There you go.
So drawing blank. But it's just, yeah, I've always loved those ships, and they only made them look cooler in the sequels. So just that whole type of ship I've always loved. And just,
I don't believe they're called Star. I don't believe they're called Star Destroyers in the sequels either. I
don't think they are. Well, that giant one's a dreadnought, but
yeah, they might be called Star Destroyers. I'm not sure.
They might be a different variant name, but yeah, I've always loved that ship, and I don't want to go with the old classics, but I just picked one that I always just kind of have been like, yeah, that ship's dope. So
fair enough. Mr. Jacob Bartley over there, what are you thinking, man?
Look, when it comes down to it, your favorite's your favorite, and I might be the most basic person on here, but it is the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
that's the shit, man. Because I thought about it. I was going through all the possible contenders, and none of them even came close to the Falcon for me. It's the ship. It's a character itself. Honestly, one of my favorite moments is in The Force Awakens when they first take the ship, and Rey
sequence is
a piece
so
of junk.
incredible.
Yeah, it's so good.
Goodness. So incredible.
So many cool things. It kind of feels just like Han and Chewie call it home. It feels comfy in there. When you're watching it, you feel like you're in there with them. It feels comfortable. Like you have all the storage underneath. You just live on the Falcon. So I got to go with the Falcon.
It's very hard to go against the Falcon. It very much is.
It is, but I will say there are ships that look a lot cooler and are a lot more neat looking and all that stuff. But Falcon's classic.
Yeah, it's definitely the classic ship, and it's the one that is like the epitome of what Star Wars is, and that's the one that I was contending with the one that I picked. I will say I wanted to just quickly throw it out there. I'm a huge fan of the A-Wing. The Rebel and Resistance A-Wings. I think they're just such cool ships. But the one that I picked was the Slave One. You guys probably aren't surprised by that. Being a fan.
It was either that or an X-Wing.
No, X-Wing was runner-up for me. Yeah.
Yeah, the Slave One though is just so unique. It's such a unique ship. And for its size, it's so capable. And there's a lot of great moments with it in multiple different facets in the mediums of Star Wars. But obviously the one time that we really get to see it on display is with Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones with that sequence against Obi-Wan. Its ability and its maneuvering and just how great it is with a great pilot behind it. It's such a sweet looking ship too. It's designed really cool. I love that it kind of feels like a spaceship when you're sitting in it before you take off. You're horizontal and you flip up when you get going, which is really cool. So it's just very unique, and I love the way it looks, which is obviously is a huge part of it. And it's connected to one of my favorite characters in Boba Fett. So, Brian, Did you have something to say? I feel like you had something to say during that.
I did. I was going to say it had one of my favorite parts in all of Star Wars, just like minimal parts where he drops those bombs and it just like sucks the sound out and then just goes.
Yep.
So is that in Attack of the Clones?
Yeah.
A lot of people love that moment. They said like the sound was revolutionary for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would definitely not be surprised. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next one, and we're gonna move into a medium of Star Wars, and we're gonna talk about best game, best video game. We're gamers here, and we played games growing up, so we're gonna jump to best game, and I will go ahead and start this one off. There's a lot of Star Wars games that have come out in our time. Obviously, we grew up in the age of video games, and EA and a number of other companies were just pumping them out like crazy over our lifespan, and it continues today. And I'm sure one in the near future might surpass this one. But I'm gonna say the original Battlefront 2 is my all-time favorite Star Wars game. I love the new Battlefronts. I love the new Battlefronts. The graphics are revolutionary, obviously. The multiplayer is incredible, but just the style of gameplay in that game specifically, with the missions and the ability to use Jedi and as you're playing as a clone trooper or some bad guys. And I just remember sitting up on my original Xbox, just playing it over and over and over again. And it's funny because, and Brian helped me out with this one, it was available on the Xbox One as a game of the month like a
nice.
year and a half ago. And so I have it on my Xbox and I play it every once in a while. And it's just, I know it's a little outdated, but it's such a cool feeling to go back and play the game and experience it for one more time. And again, it goes back to me just constantly playing it as a young teenager. So it has a little bit of an attachment there. So Battlefront 2, the original, is my pick. Jacob?
Awesome. Yeah, so this one, there's a few contenders here for me, but this is the game that I always go back to, and I probably played the most is Star Wars. It's called Star Wars Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles. I
never heard of it.
Yeah, it was on PlayStation 1, and it's if you look up the cover, it looks very familiar. At least it did for me, because I knew what game I wanted, but I couldn't remember the title. And then as soon as I saw the cover, I knew exactly what it was. And I used to play this game all the time.
That looks badass. I gotta say, it looks badass.
PlayStation 1, yep. And I remember at first, I think my dad rented it from Blockbuster.
I love doing that. I love renting games from Blockbuster.
So we rented it from Blockbuster, and we kept getting it. Like we rented it multiple times, and then I think we just kept it and paid the late fee or the fee that they charge you for that because we kept wasting money on renting it. So I just remember in my childhood playing that game so much, and it was right around the Phantom Menace time. So I think it has young Obi-Wan on the cover and all that. So
Obi-Wan and Mace Windu,
yeah. So that game was so much fun. So that's my favorite all time. I'm not gonna say my honorable mentions. Maybe I don't want to steal Brian's, but yeah, that's my favorite.
No, Jake went first because he knows he stole mine. That mine is the exact same one.
I didn't.
Is it really?
Oh, I had no idea.
No, I'm kidding. I love that game. The same reasons Jake has, but it had one of my favorite parts about it that no game's done again is the Galactic Conquest, where you you could play by yourself and you just have to fight off the Trade Federation or clones.
Yep.
And go through a map of different planets, and that if that was on the new Battlefront, I would not stop playing it. Yes,
should have been.
I would not stop playing that game. Probably it is so fun. That to this day is probably one of my most favorite things. And whenever someone asks me, it's almost an immediate answer that I know that one right away. So that one would be mine too. It's funny, Jacob, because I'm looking at yours, and they have the characters you can play with, and Adigalia has a red lightsaber. So I was like, clearly our colors didn't matter at that point because it's so old.
Yeah, for sure. But shout out to the pod racing game on N64. Yeah. Shout out to that one. That's a close runner.
That is now on
and
PlayStation.
My problem is I don't finish Star Wars games. I still haven't finished Fallen Order. I'm in the middle of the Old Republic. I never finished them, but I'm gonna finish Fallen Order before the summer's over.
The one that I wanted to mention outside of Battlefront 2 is I was addicted to the Lego Star Wars games, and they're redoing it this upcoming year. They're doing the entire saga in one. Oh, wow. I'm gonna be playing the hell out of that game.
Well, if we're saying another one, there was a one on Xbox that I still to this day wish they would backwards compatible it, and that's Star Wars Obi-Wan. I don't know if either of you. I don't
think I ever played that.
It's literally just Obi-Wan training against other Jedis in the temple, and it's like a one-on-one lightsaber battle.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
interesting.
All right, let's go and shift gears here, and we're going to get to a little bit of a different one here, and that is favorite faction / group in Star Wars. And there's a lot of them. We have learned of a lot through the years. It could be you're a Jedi, you're a Sith, you're part of some kind of guild or whatever it may be. And so, Brian, I will start this one off with you, man. What is your favorite group / faction in Star Wars?
Is there any question to what? What I'm going
on? Shouldn't have even asked. Should not have even asked.
The Sith.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Chiss Ascendancy first.
No, we don't know enough about them.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite. No, I love me some Sith. They have the best stories. They have the best stories.
No, they don't. Sorry.
Yes, they do. We haven't even delved into the stories that they could possibly tell with that. When we eventually get Old Republic or whatever it is, man, I can't wait for people to be like, the Sith are so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm gonna be like, I know. I've known this from the beginning.
Everyone thinks the Sith are cool. Come on.
Yeah. So no, I love me my bad guys. They have some of the best characters that have gone on to have some of the best stories. So of course, love me my Sith.
All right, Mr. Barley, you up next?
There. So I think mine counts, but I'm gonna go with the Rebellion, the Rebels.
Yeah, that's a group.
Yeah, so that's the thing is you kind of mix and match, right? If you go Jedi Order, maybe some of those people are in another group, you know what I mean? But I gotta go with the Rebellion because look, you have Princess Leia in A New Hope just leading the charge, commanding that group. Han's part of the Rebellion, Luke's part of the Rebellion.
Hera.
All the characters from Star Wars Rebels are part of the Rebellion. So if you mix up all those characters all into one, that's a great group of characters. And Jyn Erso, technically, right? I mean, so there's a lot that goes in there. And for me, look, there's other ones I could have chosen, but ultimately the Rebels were the ones to step up and take on the Empire and eventually take them down. So I'm going to go with the Rebellion.
Love the reasoning too. I never thought of it I just thought of like what group do I like seeing the most? And I never thought of it like, wow, what characters would be around me if I connected to that group?
Yeah, exactly.
And you 100% have the best group when it comes to that. Okay, so mine probably comes to no surprise, but I'm going with the Mandalorians. The Mandalorians is a group that now, luckily, we are seeing more of. We are getting a chance to really dive into the culture of the Mandalorians with the show The Mandalorian. Rebels did that a little bit as well as the Clone Wars, especially on this last season on that show. But just ever since Legends and from there on out, I love the stories that they tell with these characters. Obviously, a lot of it has revolved around Boba Fett, even though he's not a Mandalorian technically, or technically kind of is the way they're explaining it now, that you're kind of brought into the Mandalorians instead of being a Mandalorian. But I love the idea of like it being a Kree, and they have this kind of samurai-esque code to them, and they're like the wild west type version of Star Wars characters, and that's what I love and like seeing on screen. And I could have easily gone with something like the Jedi, just because I fall strictly to that side as far as good or evil, or I even considered something like the Gray Jedi, but the only reason why is because we don't see them; they're not considered canon. So, but for me, the Mandalorians are so interesting; they're so unique as well. And the more we learn about them, the more I like them. And so, for me, it's no question that I would want to be involved with the Mandalorians.
Nice. I thought you were going to go Jedi Alliance for sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure a lot of people thought that.
Now it makes sense. It makes so much sense. Mandalorian.
Enjoy the Mandalorians now, because once you get the Nile and Space Vikings,
yeah, that's gonna be my new group.
Yeah,
or the Jedi of the High Republic era. Who knows?
That's true.
Okay, let's go ahead and get back to this. And Jacob, I want to shoot this one to you. Let's go ahead and talk best or favorite species. A very interesting one. And one that could be very difficult to talk about because there's a lot of them in Star Wars, and we may not know the names of them, excuse me. But what is your favorite species in Star Wars?
So look, I'm not counting humans as in this, because I remember we filled out some form a while ago just for fun, and I put humans on it, but I was joking.
Were you?
Safe to leave humans off of it. But if we're going species other than humans, I'm going to go with the Wookiees, man. I just love the Wookiees. I know we've seen some bad Wookiees here and then, but they're just very loyal. If we take Chewbacca for an example as representing them, they're just very loyal, and for the most part, they seem to be good. And they're kind of just like big dogs, and I'm a dog person. I know Jake is too, so it's hard not to go against that. But also,
Cairo.
My Wookiee sitting back there.
Chewbacca, man. We did our favorite characters, and I had to have him on there. And I'm just over time, even just on a daily basis, I'm starting to appreciate Chewbacca more. He's just so incredible, just incredible character. The thing is, he doesn't talk, so he's not. Oh, he doesn't speak basic, I should say. So he's not highly regarded. Like a lot of people don't name him when they say their favorite character in Star Wars. But look, man, look at the journey he's been on. He's really C-3PO's been there too, but Chewbacca's been in the action, in the battle, fighting, and I guess in every trilogy, kind of, not really the prequels, but whatever. But since A New Hope, he's been in the battle, and if he's a representation for the Wookiees, they're my favorite species.
I love it. Love the choice. Brian?
I went with a completely random one. I don't know why I like them, but I like them a lot, and that's the Ithorians. The ones that look like slugs. I don't know if it's just because they.
Which ones are those? Which movie are they in?
Ithorians. They're not in a movie. They've been in a lot of they're the ones with the slugs that have the two eyes on the side.
They're not slugs.
I know what you're talking
about.
Not really
slugs
with the two eyes on the side, though. Okay.
They literally look like snails. What do you mean they don't?
They look more like a fish to me.
No, they're slugs.
No, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think they look funny. I think in that just they always, and then like the baby ones are pretty funny because you see them in the Clone Wars and they just these huge eyes and stuff. I tried to go with one that like doesn't get a lot of love because I do love what are the Sabrox?
Yes, Sabrox, I think.
The Darth Maul species. But yeah, no, I like the random. I don't know. Every time I see the Ithorians, I kind of like just laugh. So it's just, I don't know, maybe because they just are like, they just seem so like, ooh, and they talk like their mouths are underneath their neck and I don't know. I like them. They're funny. They're funny.
That's all right.
And I didn't know. Is there a canon Ithorian Jedi that I do know?
No. I think it's a concept art.
I know there was one in the comic book, a comic book I just read, but they killed him in like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
so
I think that was a piece of concept art.
Yeah, but yeah, random.
I'm sure there has been at some point in time.
Oh yeah, there's like been one of every species.
Yeah. So mine is actually a rare species, but it comes with a very popular character, and that is Togrutas, and that is a Ahsoka species.
Okay,
we've only seen. We've only seen a few of them in Star Wars, and I'm not saying it's to this level, but the fact that the few that we've seen, and off the top of my head, it's 3 of them. All 3 are Jedi. It kind of gives me that Yoda species vibe a little bit. Like, what is their connection to the Force, or like what? Because we've never experienced their home world. We've never like really dived into the species of Togrutas, and so. I hope one day we do. I don't know if that's with an Ahsoka Tano esque, series or comic book or whatever it may be. But I would love to see the connection there as far as why that is the case in canon so far. They also look incredibly just cool. Like they're really, really cool characters with the head tails and different skin colors and different colors on their head tails and the way that they dress. And they kind of have like this religion-esque style to them, and they're very kind of proper in a way. Shakti, Ahsoka being the 2 main ones that we have seen. And so I just think that the character, not to say that they're underused, but I'm interested in why we haven't seen them as much as others, but specifically why they're placed as Jedis more than just a character. And so I would love to learn in the future as to why that is. So Togrutas is my pick.
It's a great pick.
Poor Shakti. They literally just used her to kill her.
Yeah, 2 deleted scenes in Revenge of the Sith where she died.
And she died and in the video game.
You guys say Twi'lek or Twi'lek?
I say Twi'lek.
I've heard it pronounced both ways. And by
Twi'lek.
audiobook readers.
I probably say
Twi'lek.
You
don't remember now, huh?
It's to me, it's like caramel and caramel, whatever.
I used to say Twi'lek but then I heard a lot of audiobook people say Twi'lek. So anyways, that was my runner-up, were the Twi'leks.
Oh, okay. Cool. Mine was a Wookiee. Was a runner-up.
Nice.
Okay, let's get to one that we actually just talked about, and that is best movie, our favorite movie, I should say. This one can be very quick because we did a whole show on it last week. Yeah. And for those of you who maybe didn't watch that episode, go back and check that out because we broke it down. But real quick, I'll start this off. Favorite movie, Empire Strikes Back, will always be my favorite Star Wars film. Nothing has really come close to it as of yet, and I hope something rivals it one day. But for right now, at the time, Empire Strikes Back stands at the top.
Jacob and I.
Yeah, it's a new hope for me. It's just classic. It feels really. I feel like it set the mold for a lot of storytelling going forward, but also Obi-Wan explaining the Force. Boom, that's it. My favorite movie.
Yeah, you talk about that scene all the time.
All the time. Same thing. It's the original. I love it from just start to beginning. It just captivates me every time I watch it. So, A New Hope is mine.
All right. Let's get to a really cool one here. Lightsaber hilt. Favorite lightsaber hilt. This is something. Yeah, this is something that can really go a dozen different ways here.
Yeah.
As far as a favorite lightsaber hilt, and so Jacob, I'll start this with you. And I may have a feeling.
I think I know too.
What is your favorite lightsaber hilt?
All right. So, look, I'm not the most knowledgeable on lightsaber hilt, so I don't know what Count Dooku's is called, and mine's not Count Dooku's, but I'm just saying, for example. But mine, I guess you could call it classic Obi-Wan's first lightsaber. So I did some research on this, and I realized Obi-Wan has had 3 lightsabers on screen. He had the one that he lost in the fight to Darth Maul. And then he had another one, and then when he was made a Jedi Master, he made a third one. But I'm talking about his first one. If you look at it, it's just silver with the red button, like bright red button on it. And Qui-Gon's is designed similarly, but they're different colors. So just that classic, I like my things very basic. Even all my technology that I use and everything, I like it very basic and not difficult. So I feel like I would be the same way with a lightsaber hilt. So I'm going to go with the classic, whatever Obi-Wan's first lightsaber is, that one.
Simple. You have an Android phone. That's not basic.
No, iPhones are so complicated.
Mr. Avlicino?
I went back and forth between 2. There's 2 that I'm currently kind of obsessed with. But for this, I'm going to go for my number 1 is Asajj Ventress's handle. I've always loved the curve handle ever since I saw it in Count Dooku's. But Count Dooku's is a little much for me. Like, it has a lot kind of going on. Plus, I still to this day don't see the purpose of that little like hook that comes out the top of it. Like, I don't know why it's there, but
it might hang that way.
I don't know. But hers is just simple, just silver with black stripes around it and with a devastating curve. But until recently, like a couple of weeks ago, I either forgot or didn't realize that she can put 2 together and make like an S blade. It kind of like Maul's except an S, which is pretty dope. But yeah, I kind of like the individual one. So yeah,
cool. I went back and forth as well. I had a couple in mind. One of them being the double for Ahsoka. The one, especially one being shorter than the other for her weaker hand. But the one I pick is the classic Anakin Skywalker blade, the Skywalker Legacy hilt. I just think that it's such a balanced look as far as a lightsaber hilt. It's clean cut. It's simple. It has the combination of silver and black in there. It has the blue crystal in it, which we'll talk a little bit later about crystal colors. But it looks like a blade or a hilt, that would fit well in your hand. And I don't personally like the curves. I don't know if I like the curves of something like a Dooku or a Sidious or not Sidious, but a Dooku or Ventress. I know Ahsoka has a slight curve, but it's not as aggressive as the others. And so for me, it just goes back to the classic version of the Anakin blade or Anakin hilt that went to Luke and then eventually fell into the hands of Rey as well. And so I picked the Anakin Skywalker hilt.
Did either of you have a close up?
Oh, Darth Maul's double-sided lightsaber.
Okay.
I was pondering Rey's.
Oh, that one's amazing, dude. I love
her staff hilt.
I love that.
That's pretty cool. Mine was,
I was pondering that.
The one that I was fighting between was that, and I love the Temple Guards one.
Mm-hmm. I also was considering Kylo's too. I do love Kylo's.
Oh, his is pretty cool.
I
love Kylo's.
Something about that gold and white and silver together, so cool.
Okay, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about our favorite TV series. This is a big one. Currently, there's 3 of them running, or there's 4 of them. Excuse me. There's been 4 so far. So we have Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Resistance, and The Mandalorian. There's going to be a couple that are coming down the road as well. But out of the 4, let's go ahead and discuss this a little bit. And Brian, I'll shoot this one to you first. What is your favorite Star Wars series?
No surprise, Rebels. I absolutely love Rebels. It's got some of the best stories that I think I have ever come across in Star Wars, and introduced a character that I love a lot. And just, I don't know, the way the stories that we see in this are just amazing, between like Maul's, Ahsoka's, Kanan, like everyone's. Anyone that comes across has, even Governor Price has pretty good story. So I've already making my way through it for a second time, and it just keeps getting better every single time I watch it. So Rebels for sure, not a question.
For me, and this may strictly be just because it's the most recent thing in my mind, but it's the Clone Wars at the moment. I really, really love the Clone Wars, and I love everything that has to do with Star Wars television. And I got behind on Resistance, and I caught back up, and I thought it was well done for what it was going for. And obviously The Mandalorian, but what the Clone Wars did this most recent season, and then what it did the 6 previous seasons as far as stories and characters and arcs, and how it humanized the clones, and it gave us different perspectives on the war and the politics and everything involved in it. Just how widespread it was. I thought it was brilliantly done. And it just grew over time, and it was a long running show, and it continued to just kind of develop and evolve into what it became at the very end. And so for the moment, and it probably is going to change every time I see something new, it is the Clone Wars.
I like when Jacob makes a stink face, because he's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that one.
Look, this was the most difficult one, honestly. This was the one where, this was the most difficult one for me out of all these categories, because there are a lot of them I love a lot. But I'm going to go with Clone Wars as well. Look, Mandalorian, maybe if we just did your favorite one season of Star Wars, maybe it's The Mandalorian, but we don't have enough of The Mandalorian for it to contend with Rebels or Clone Wars for me. But Clone Wars, there's so much involved in it. And for me, what it did for the Anakin character just completely changed my perspective on him.
Saved him.
And if there were any question, let's say I had something else tied with Clone Wars, those last 4 episodes that we just watched put it over the top. It's so incredible. So just for how much there is and how all this storylines you get, and bringing Darth Maul back and all this stuff, I'm going to go Clone Wars.
All right. Let's go ahead and get to a big one, and that is favorite villain. Let's go and talk about favorite villain here, and I'm not going to you first, Mr. Avellino. I'm gonna go right back to Jacob. Who is your favorite Star Wars villain?
I think I know.
Come on, man. It's Big Daddy Darth Vader. What?
Actually,
it's Big Daddy Darth Vader. Look, I mean, we did our favorite character list last time, and he was my highest villain, so it only makes sense, right? But
I thought it might have been Maul.
Maul's very, very close to him. Very, very close. Look, classic villain, greatest villain of all time. He's just that father-son thing just gets me in the original trilogy. So, Vader.
Brian?
Thrawn. I love Thrawn.
If he wasn't in Rebels, you wouldn't be able to say him, though.
Yep, exactly. Technically you can, because the books and the comics. Yes,
can we? Oh, I guess anything canon. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
love Thrawn. I just love how he's just so menacing, that blue skin and the red eyes, but he's not just a stupid like villain that like reacts. He actually studies them, finds their weakness, then attack. Like, such a brilliantly done character, and really hoping to see a lot more of him. I'm excited to now go into his origin. The books kind of gave us, I feel like, the middle of his story, and then eventually I would love to see, I don't want to see the end of his story because I don't want him to die, but an older version of him, let's say, with that. So yeah, Thrawn, my favorite character, period. So
Vader. I echo your sentiments, Jacob. It's Vader for sure. He's the greatest movie villain of all time, and it's no question, in my opinion.
I'll agree.
And I was lucky enough to draft him number 1 overall in our villains draft. So I got to go with Big Daddy Vader for sure. And I definitely agree with you as far as the father-son thing adds a whole different level to this. And I will say this as well, and I know for a lot of people this isn't the case, but the books and comics play a huge factor in this for me as well.
Oh, very true.
And what they've done with him over that medium as far as the
when
text
you get into
versions.
his head and Lords of the Sith, amazing stuff.
And even those comics we did about him on Mustafar and stuff, like just everything they've done with the character has been spot on, brilliant since Marvel has got a hold of him for comics and book stuff, or Penguin Random House, who does the novels. But yeah, Vader is unstoppable, and then
if you count the Rebels stuff and the Rogue One.
Exactly. It's just a huge thing to choose from, and I don't think there's any way you can pick from him. So definitely Vader. All right, let's get to a cool one. A little bit of a breath of fresh.
I don't think anyone can pick away from him, and I literally picked away from him. So
well, my opinion. Let's get to a cool one here. A very interesting one with lots of choices. Then his favorite planet. I'm pretty sure I know who Mr. Bartley's is, or what Mr. Bartley's is, but who knows what they say. I will go ahead and start this one off, and this is tough because there's a couple that we see very quickly that I don't feel like I can give the credit of saying favorite planet because we haven't seen enough of them. Someone like I think it's called Agent Kloss from The Rise of Skywalker, where they first are in the film. Really cool looking planet, but just haven't seen enough of it to really like make me feel comfortable saying that. And I'm going old school classic here. I got Endor as my favorite planet. Forest Moon of Endor. I love that, just the atmosphere.
Go ahead. I was going to joke.
Go ahead. I love the what?
Loves the Ewok.
I don't mind the Ewoks. I
know, I'm kidding.
But I just love the idea of what Endor is, and even again going back to what we mentioned with Vader about the comics and books. Endor comes back into play with certain Force stuff later on in books and comics, and in the story of the Skywalker saga at certain moments, and it has a connection with Poe, obviously, which is a really cool addition. Obviously, it playing a huge part in Return of the Jedi, and so I hope we go back one day, legitimately, not just like a little small cameo in the Rise of Skywalker, but it was definitely a very hard choice. I had Kashyyyk up there as well. I thought Kashyyyk is a really, really cool planet. But I ultimately give the top prize to Endor.
Nice.
Brian, why don't you go next?
So in the past, I put Moorband / Korriban, whatever area you're looking at it. But it's kind of hard to say that that's my favorite just because right now there's not really anything about it. I think they've really only touched on it like once, and I think it was an episode of Clone Wars, and that was about it. Yeah, it was Clone Wars, and that was it.
Oh, it's got to be Exegol, right, Brian?
No, it's not Exegol. For me, it's Dathomir. I love Dathomir.
Oh, Dathomir's
not
great.
Surprised. Not surprised.
It's funny because we already did faction. If I had to pick a runner-up to that, it would probably be like the Night Sisters, just because they have some of the coolest stories. The fact that they use like Force magic and just like that planet is just so like not scary, but like intimidating. Like it's just like no one wants to go there just because like it's just unlike anywhere else in the galaxy. So. and it's just a very cool, interesting, like scary kind of planet that you don't see a lot in Star Wars. There's not a lot of planets that like people are afraid to go to because they're like scary, and that's one of them. So yeah, I love, to me, honestly, some of the best stories in my opinion have come from that planet. So like I mean, I love the Sith, but I haven't seen enough of Morrowind, so I'm gonna go with Dathomir for sure.
Not surprised. Jacob?
Awesome. So, look, if I'm in the Star Wars universe, I want to be able to hop in a cab. I want to go to a bar.
Jesus.
I
Not
wanna
surprised.
go
So
to
basic.
an opera show. I maybe want to get involved in some politics. So that is Khorasan.
Well, buy some death sticks.
Look, Khorasan is so cool. And I will say, I always love Khorasan, especially in Attack of the Clones, that scene where Anakin's jumping down. But also, the novels have actually furthered my love for Khorasan, because there's a lot of stuff. I think in Catalyst, there's a lot of stuff on Khorasan.
That's where they are.
God, you
That's
two
where they are the whole time. And I'm not just
Yeah.
bringing this up to shove it in Brian's face again. Catalyst actually made me realize that Coruscant was my favorite planet, because there's a scene, there's like an intense scene in the book where they're chasing, somebody's getting chased, and I was like, you know what, Coruscant's awesome, so I love Coruscant.
All right, fair enough. Let's go ahead and get to another big one.
Oh my
and
God.
that is
he knows now. Does it every
time. Favorite trilogy. We have 3 to choose from here, and essentially 3 different eras to pick from, and so it can be considered one way or another. But let's go ahead and do favorite trilogy, and I'll go right back to you, Jacob. What is your favorite Star Wars trilogy?
Look, it's not as, this decision isn't as easy as some may think, but I have to go original trilogy. Just it has the best quality of movies. If 3 against 3, it has the best quality of movies, and I just, Princess Leia is just alive and prominent in all 3, so I got to go with the original trilogy.
She's alive and prominent. She's alive.
I meant she's
thriving.
present. She's present and prominent in all 3 films.
Brian?
Original. I mean,
Yeah, original for me too.
Yeah, it's what started it all. I mean, how can you not? It's just, yeah.
Greatest movie trilogy ever made.
Two out of
I agree.
my top 3, 2 out of my 3 are from it, so it has to be that one. So yeah.
All right, well, we're all on the same page on that one. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go ahead and do, we only have a couple left. Let's go and do a very cool one that could be a fun conversation. That is favorite lightsaber color. And I will go ahead and start this one off. And it's an interesting choice. It really is an interesting choice. I have said this before, and I think I talked about this when we did that little list that we're kind of going off of here.
If you have the color, you should go grab it.
I'd have to put it in the blade. But I based this decision on, I had 3 choices essentially. 2 of them we haven't seen enough of, in my opinion. One of those 2 we have yet to see in live action, and so my choice is green. I really do like the color of green. It also goes in line with most of my favorite Jedi: Qui-Gon, Luke, Ahsoka Tano when she was a Jedi, among many others. But those were kind of like the prominent 3 for me. And so green is just one that has always stood out to me. I can also say it's the one that called to me at Galaxy's Edge when I built my lightsaber. But the other 2 that I was rivaling with, the ones that I had talked about, was white for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen it in live action yet. And then yellow, because we have yet to see that in live action, in real action, not live action, but real action. If we had seen yellow throughout that film, which I believe we should have seen yellow throughout that film,
cool.
It probably would be my number 1 color. But for right now, it is green.
Yeah, she should have built that lightsaber at the beginning of that movie.
I agree. And that was in the original script too.
Of course it was.
Yeah. Jacob, why don't you go ahead and go next, man?
Look, it's blue. It's always been blue. It's never changed. And I honestly think that Obi-Wan's lightsaber being blue is the reason why blue's my favorite color. Like blue's my favorite color in general, just the royal blue. So I always I never even questioned it. Like you have yellow could be your favorite, if these circumstances happen. For me, no, nothing comes close. It's blue.
I could probably guess what Brian's is, but go ahead, Mr. Alvesino.
Purple. Oh.
Red.
Hey, purple's pretty cool too, though.
Purple is cool.
It is very cool.
Red. I love the bad guys, so of course I'm going to pick red. Runner up though, I agree with Jake. I am really starting to dig that gold yellow color. It's just slick, and the way it shows up on the screen on that at the end on the screen. When I first, it just blew my mind seeing that. So it's a close, very close second, more than I would like to say, but until then.
It was the perfect opportunity for them to be like, that Saber got destroyed, let her build her own. And they just...
I know, right? Like, why did she have blue again? Anyways, but my runner-up is a green.
Nice. Love it. Okay. We are actually on our final one, gentlemen. We are on our final one. We are. And I'll have one more after this that I didn't put on the list and we've talked about before. We could talk about it. But for right now, the final one on the list that I sent you guys.
No, you have two more.
Which ones?
You have book and you have hero.
Oh, we do have book. That is correct.
I thought it was just hero.
Good call. So did I. Let's go ahead and do this then. Let's go ahead and go to favorite book. We have not done book yet, and there's quite a bit to pick from. Brian, I will start this one off with you. What is your favorite Star Wars book?
It's funny because the one everyone says is Lost Stars, and it's funny. I think I need to go back and read it. I know in my head it's amazing, but I think I was so blown away for me by Dark Disciples that right now Dark Disciples is my number one. I would like to go back and listen to Lost Stars again because I remember the gist of it, but I don't remember what made it so amazing. So, but whereas with Dark Disciples, I know very much what I loved about it. It's the whole entire thing. So for me, it's Dark Disciples. Love that book. Love that story. Horrible ending, but for my character. But but it's such a good book. Such a good book. But yeah, Dark
Jacob.
Disciples.
I think you guys know mine. It's Bloodline. Star Wars Bloodline, the Claudia Gray novel. I love this book so much. Look, I have almost every canon audiobook that they've put out. This is the only one that I've listened to twice all the way through. And I was just like, well, there's no new Star Wars books out. Let's just restart this one again. And like you said, Brian, it has my second favorite character ever introduced in the novels, and that is Ransom Stairfoe. Love that guy.
You can make up your own.
This book, I could, but this book is it's such a political thriller. It's intense at certain times. And the way they take Ransom, how he's not a likable guy at first, and what they do with his character by the end of the novel, so good. And it's a Leia book, so has that going for it. But yeah,
it'd be a great television show. It would be a great television show.
Bloodline is my favorite.
Absolutely. Yeah, great call. It's hard because I have two, and it's really difficult to pick between the two because they're really, really just, and it's funny because they were the first two ever released in the new canon for Star Wars when Disney first got them. But when I think of a good Star Wars novel and the novel that I would want to see on screen, that is Lords of the Sith.
Yeah,
that is Lords of the Sith. Vader and Palpatine getting stranded on a planet and fighting their way off the planet. That is all I need to say. It is incredible. It's the one story that I want to see adapted to the big screen. If they ever do adaptations or solo adventures 10, 15 years down the road, you need to tell this story. You need to tell people will come to the movie theater to watch Vader and Palpatine fight their way off a planet. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? You kidding me? So yes, Lord of the Sith. Even though it's a very, very tight race between Lord of the Sith and Lost Stars, I can say that Lords of the Sith is just a little bit of an edge out.
Dude,
So.
Lords of the Sith is top 3 for me. In Lords of the Sith, Darth Vader force chokes someone in another ship. Like
yes. Over the intercom, essentially.
It's crazy.
It's wild. Okay, last one. Thank you for doing that, Brian. Final one we have on this list is favorite Star Wars hero. Now, this is going to relate to our favorite character list, obviously, but we can definitely discuss it again. And I will start this one off. I'll go right back to myself on this one. And number one on my Star Wars list, my favorite Star Wars character of all time, Mr. Han Solo himself, Harrison Ford, the pilot of Millennium Falcon, the smuggler, the nerf herder. He is just such an incredibly brilliant character. He's written incredibly well. I think he's acted incredibly well. Obviously, the connection he has with so many different characters as well, not just Luke and Leia, but Finn and Rey down the road, and the characters like Poe as well, and the connection with all those connection with Chewie as well. But just the character to me is just what I love about Star Wars so much. The fun that he brings to Star Wars and the wild, like I mentioned with Boba Fett or the Mandalorians, excuse me, just the wild West type character of Star Wars, and this is the epitome of that. And so Han Solo is my favorite hero. Jacob, why don't we just go down the line here?
Awesome. Since we can do book characters, it's got to be Rey Sloane for me. No,
Yeah.
I wish.
Ooh.
No, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And is she a
She's not
hero?
a good guy.
I don't know. She becomes a hero near the end. But no, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Come on, we all know this. I just look, as a kid growing up, I liked him because he was feisty and he followed the rules. I was like, but that wasn't necessarily a good thing because the Jedi Order was lost. I didn't know that when I was younger, but I was like, Obi-Wan's the only one who follows the rules. He's my favorite. And then he became my favorite. So it's Obi-Wan.
That's fair. Brian?
This character I've grown to love more as time goes on. And that for me is Leia. I absolutely love her. Anytime she comes on screen and her music, you just hear it, you instantly just kind of like, I just immediately fill up with like, oh, I love this character. And just how she don't take crap from no one. She's going to make sure that she does things her way, no matter who you are. And just, she's like the epitome of a Star Wars character. Like she's going to make her own path and no one's going to steer her away from it. And yeah, I've grown to love her even more. It's funny because people have a lot of bad things to say coming out of the sequel trilogies. I think her character got better going on in that trilogy, going from princess to general. And yeah, I love that character. So just Leia flat out.
Perfect.
Great
All right, well,
choice.
that wraps up the list that we have. But the one thing that I wanted to kind of end the show off here with since we are kind of going on a little hiatus for a little while as far as the Padawan podcast and shifting gears here on Apocaflix Movies, I wanted to ask you guys if you had a favorite memory of the show or what it is about the show that you'll miss, something that stands out about the show, getting together week to week about Star Wars. And so Jacob, I'll start with you. What is it about this show that you'll end up missing, or maybe a favorite memory of it?
Man, putting us on the spot, but there's a lot of good memories. Your parents' kitchen pops into my mind, and then your garage at your last house pops into my mind. We shot a lot of Padawan episodes at both of those places. And like one of the things that comes to my mind is that Force Awakens spoiler review, man. It's literally 2 hours long for one movie.
I wasn't a part of that. So
yeah, and Brian wasn't here yet, so that was great. But but no, it's just because all that hype was going around that movie at the time, and we spent you and Gio. We seriously, I don't even think we planned to go for 2 hours. We probably planned for an hour, and it was seriously 2 hours long. And I think we were reviewing the movies leading up to it. But weren't we doing multiple at a time? Or did we
did two at a time. We did two at a time.
Yeah, we did two at a time. And two movies was shorter than the one movie was like for the whole review. So that's something I'll always remember for sure.
Your breakdown was probably longer than the whole entire movie.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
I think the movie was like 2:15. Ours was 2 hours. So we were close. Brian, you got anything you want to
add? Just I do have one, but being able to talk to you two nerds about stuff that I'm just as nerdy about all the time. But nothing will ever top for me probably Celebration and the announcements that Jake, you and I sat in our garage and lost our ever-loving minds. Especially the Rise of Skywalker trailer reaction that we did. I still to this day go back and watch that because it's just so funny because we literally just lose control of our bodies through that whole entire thing and just start screaming and squealing like little girls. And that I'll always love that whole entire video. But definitely Celebration.
So I don't necessarily have a memory, and the Force Awakens one will always come to mind. But it's definitely what you had mentioned, Brian. It's just sitting down once a week and talking Star Wars with you guys. And I know that we'll do it outside of the show. Oh, yeah. And I know that we'll do it. We'll do it on Apocaflix now as well. But it is really cool, especially the last couple months, knowing that every Monday at 6 o'clock we're sitting here talking Star Wars with different topics, whatever it may be. And I'm definitely gonna miss it. It's Padawan's been on this channel since the very beginning, since it kind of switched gears as a channel, and it's definitely something that's gonna be missed. But it's definitely something that's not gonna be away forever. And so I'm looking forward to the day when we do get to come back and talk Star Wars, and maybe that happens when more things are happening in Star Wars, or just when we feel that we're ready to bring it back. And so I'm definitely gonna miss Mondays, getting together, sitting down, talking Star Wars and ranking stuff, or geeking out about this, or arguing about who the best Jedi is, or whatever it may be. And so, it's definitely talking Star Wars with you two knuckleheads. So,
yeah, I agree too. And look, can you imagine if you didn't have somebody to talk Star Wars with? I'd be talking
to him 24/7.
We've all been there, I'm sure, at some point in our lives, and it's good to have that now. And we still will outside of the show, so it's awesome. And definitely. I'm sure we'll still be doing Mandalorian Club once.
Oh yes, we will. Yes, we will.
You'll get us sooner than you thought.
Well, what's funny about that too is, in the near future, we'll probably be doing that 3 times a year with Mandalorian, Cassian Andor, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So who knows what's popping down the road for the Mandalorian?
We're gonna have to put restraints on Jacob when Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine that? That's gonna be crazy.
Yes, it will. Until then, this is the Padawan Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Just a quick shout out to everyone who listens every single week, everyone who watches every single week. We can't thank you enough for supporting the show and being a part of the show, and kind of just joining us along this geek journey that we are doing along the galaxy far, far away. And I know that there aren't hundreds and thousands of people that know the show exists, but for those who do come back on a regular basis, we really, really appreciate it, and that you are the reason that we do come back on a regular basis, as well as for us, just because we want to be able to geek out on screen for you guys. And so with that said, this is the Padawan Podcast for Apocaflix Movies. Again, you can find us all over social media on Twitter and Instagram, as well as podcast platforms. All of our shows will live there, and all previous episodes live there. So you can find anything we've done for Padawan in the last number of years up on audio, as well as on YouTube. Just go ahead and search Padawan Podcast or Apocaflix Movies, and you will be able to find it. So for the final time, for the foreseeable future, that is Brian. That is Jacob. I am Jake, and this is the Padawan Podcast for Apocaflix Movies, and we will see you guys next time. May the Force be with you.